All right, Governor Ducey announced just about an hour ago that in-person learning at Arizona school campuses will now be pushed back until August 17th.
This comes days after he announced a $270 million plan to aid with reopening our schools. Joe Thomas is a teacher and also the president of the Arizona Education Association. Joe, thanks for joining us. So, did you just learn about this with the rest of us, and what's your reaction to it?
Well, we did just hear about what the governor had announced, and we're very happy to see a delayed start to the year. But what we really need is a plan for all of our schools across the state to know that we can reopen safely and keep at the center of those decisions the health of our community.
Hey, Joe, kind of walk our viewers through this funding formula. Do students have to be physically on campus for those school districts to be fully funded? Is that why some of these administrators are pushing so hard to go 5 days a week? Or give us that dilemma with that funding formula.
Well, the funding formula is set by the state, and it have to be on campus to be fully funded. There has been some flexibility given in the last executive order. If districts meet some specific criteria, that they will get all the funding they need to make sure that they can hire all the teachers that they need and support their students the way they need to. But the real focus is on health and safety. We can't be sending teachers or counselors or students into school buildings that aren't safe. We don't want them to be spreaders and take the virus to their community. So until we start to see a trend down in the state, numbers of who's contracted, what our hospital beds look like, we can't really seriously be students and educators in the school buildings. It's going to be distance learning for a while.
Joe, we're having a little bit of trouble with your signal, so if you don't catch all of this question, I apologize. What is your threshold? You represent tens of thousands of teachers statewide. You were the face of the Red for Ed movement a couple of years back. What's your threshold? Because right now, the percentage of people testing positive statewide is at 20%. That means we've got 5 weeks or less to get down to at least 5%, which is the threshold that the World Health Organization says is the safe zone where you can then start to reduce mitigation efforts. What's your threshold to get your teachers safely back into school?
Well, I would say 0%. But what we have to really look at is what is the risk we're going to be sending educators who have families themselves and students into. We have a virus that we know very little about. I mean, the whole reason that it's difficult to understand is because it's so new. And educating our students and having our communities be safe should not be in conflict with each other. And that's what our policymakers have to remember. It's got to be safe. Communities have to be healthy. We can educate the students. We just may need to be extra creative, and we may need to see the resources to support that creativity.
Now that it's going to be a couple more weeks before our classrooms reopen, what are teachers doing this summer? Are they preparing to do all virtual curriculum?
I think right now educators are preparing to do virtual curriculum. They're preparing to do in-person curriculum. They're preparing to do 2 weeks of curriculum in case they get exposed and they have to go home and quarantine. This is the most unusual year any of us can think of. But nobody wants to be back in their schools with their students than educators. But we have to do it safely.
Hey, Joe, I remember back in the Red for Ed days, you were very adamant about the governor not talking with you as head of the union. Today, he called August 17th an inspirational date, that he's been listening to principals, superintendents. Has he talked directly with you or your organization? And if he hasn't, what would be your message to the governor right now?
Well, he hasn't. We've not had any direct conversations. And it's what we've been saying since March 15th. Is most important to the Arizona Education Association and our members is that students and staff and the communities are safe and they can remain healthy during all of this. We need to be supported to do the job that everybody wants us to do. That may start out in a distance learning model, but we want to move to where we can have students back in the classrooms and on the campuses. But there's only so much we can do. We're not going to be able to really be there until all Arizonans decide that they're going to change their behaviors and start spreading this virus so easily.
Yeah, heading into July, typically an exciting time for teachers preparing their classrooms for the upcoming year. Just so much unknown this year, that's for sure. Joe Thomas with the Arizona Education Association. Joe, thanks. We'll be right back after this.